With Maureen Callahan, host of The Nerve with Maureen Callahan, available on podcasts and YouTube. I was just watching an episode where you were tearing into Hilaria Baldwin over her Warhols and claiming to the journalist, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed that you're here and seeing all these portraits of myself on the wall." I mean, the audacity. She just, it's hard to believe she's real.
All right, buckle up, because this one's a wild ride to a world of Meghan Markle's latest media missteps, the never-ending Sussex melodrama, and even a few detours into JFK lore and Hollywood absurdity. This conversation between Kinsey Schofield and Maureen Callahan, plus a few guest cameos, verbal eye rolls, and sponsor breaks, manages to cover everything from Meghan's fake humility to Harry's alleged list of demands for King Charles. And honestly, the whole thing feels like a royal soap opera on a caffeine high. So it all starts with Meghan's now infamous New York Times photo shoot.
It's the level of fakeness and inauthenticity. Again, only Meghan Markle can rival it. She's like, she has the New York Times into her home, which is a very pre-scheduled, we're arranging our talking points. Here's what you can ask. Here's what you can't. And the journalist comes in and Hilaria is like, "Oh my God, if only I had known you were coming, I would have removed this giant monument to myself from my living room. But there we are, her fake Warhol."
Yeah, exactly. Could you see Meghan Markle doing Dancing with the Stars? I feel like she would want to.
Are we dancing for social justice? Are we dancing against
Girl,
racism?
we gave up social justice the second Jam entered the picture.
True enough. I'm very, by the way, we did a piece on The Nerve about her Bloomberg interview, taking it out back and taking it apart. That thing, I mean, that is some unintentional hilarity right there. That Bloomberg piece.
Who advises her? Well, you said the same thing about the interview with Hillary Baldwin. You were like, nobody's asking tough questions anymore. And that's the same thing I'd say about Meghan. She refuses to give them any sort of sales insight. If I'm Bloomberg and I'm a business entity or I'm a business outlet, I feel like I say to Meghan Markle, who clearly wants an interview with me, I don't see the value in doing this interview unless we talk about tough things, about business. I mean, it was like a fluff piece.
It was so embarrassing. Again, legacy media wonders. This woman sat down with Meghan and asks the question, Kinsey, that no one has ever asked. Do you own your own story? Excuse me while I hold space over here, and look for my truth. Do you own if you don't own your story, who does? And then she says, the other question I loved, which is, we're looking really deep into Meghan's eyes. We've got our hand on so we're very serious. We're very serious.
Oh, yeah.
If there's just one thing you wish people could know about you that they don't, one thing. And Meghan's like really stumped. Meghan's really stumped. It's like, hey, can you recite the periodic table front to back? Meghan's like,
wait, by the way, we know through Drew Barrymore that Meghan likes to approve the questions first. So whenever she takes one of those beats where she's like, I just feel like it's a Suits moment where she gets to pretend to be an actress again, because according to the Drew Barrymore show, like, she gets a lot of these questions, if not all the questions, in advance.
Oh my God, I totally forgot. I feel so naive that she was like caught off guard by this hardball lobbed by one Emily Chang, reporter of the year.
Exactly. And then the question about, like, how do you balance being a duchess? And it's like, I almost cursed right there, but it's like, this girl is not a duchess. She is a Montecito mama. Like, she gave up that job a long time ago. I don't understand why people like Emily cater to her and allow the Duchess thing, but she's not doing one damn Duchess thing. I mean, she's really given up, for the most part, all of her charity work. So we don't even have those cute little moments that we get with Catherine, Princess of Wales, where there are children crawling all over her, or she's laughing with the elderly, or, Meghan, how does she balance it? She has hijacked the name and refused to do any of the heavy lifting. So let's not allow her the privilege of being called Duchess.
Where she apparently let a journalist into her home only to pretend to be embarrassed about having giant portraits of herself on the wall. You can almost hear the faux modesty. Oh my gosh, if I'd known you were coming, I'd have hidden the shrine to myself. Cue the collective eye roll. This is the thing about Meghan. She operates in this bizarre space between overcalculated and utterly tone deaf.
Kinsey, I've got to ask you, I'm dying to know your thoughts on the recent Rob Shooter report that Harry, before he boarded that plane out of LAX to go and try to get a meeting with his own father, he has a list of demands, according to Rob Shooter, one of which included HRH in spirit, if not letter of the law, for Meghan, and that other royals bow and curtsy to her in her presence. Do you think that is true?
I feel like Rob Shooter lost me a while ago.
Really?
But of
Really?
the list of demands, that was the only one I couldn't dismiss. Like the first list was that he wanted the king to pay for his security, to which I would say the government already does. 9 out of 10 times, Prince Harry gives Ravik a heads up and says, here's when I'm coming. He has to give them 28 days notice and he has to give them their itinerary. They look at the threat level and
Hmm.
determine based on when he's coming and what he's doing, what kind of security detail he needs. He has government paid security 9 out of 10 times. Like he can go on TV all he wants and cry about it. I think that's more for public sympathy. And then B, the idea that he wants Buckingham Palace to handle their PR when they're there. I mean, that's such an anti-Sussex move with this particular trip. He's there for 4 days and has handpicked Sussex-friendly media to attend certain events with him. So he's not going to give, he just did an entire book and series about how Buckingham Palace threw his wife to the wolves. Why would he trust Buckingham Palace to manage any media for him while he's in the UK? So those two things stink to me. But the insisting that his wife is treated like an HRH, the audacity of that is the only thing that I feel is credible of that report.
And it also, to your point about things that make sense or don't make sense, it's interesting because you really can't ever. This is why I get thrown by stuff like this. What you just said about Buckingham Palace makes perfect sense, but these two don't apply logic to anything. Because if you are fleeing a family that you say is not only racist, but that not only, and then ignored your pleas for mental help, that you felt suicidal while pregnant with your first child, and the royal said, not happening. We don't care if you kill yourself. This is what she's telling us via
Yeah.
Oprah,
Yeah.
Mistress of the Dark Arts. Why you would then want the HRH appellation, why you would then want royals to bow to you when you move to America to get rid of all. See, none of it makes any sense. So I'm constantly in a state of flummox, I
Right.
suppose.
Right. No, I mean, but it's the only thing that keeps Harry and Meghan interesting because otherwise they're not very interesting. They're not talented. They are not creative. Like I at least wish Meghan Markle were a little creative. I walked away from season 2 knowing how to pack my luggage, something I feel like I've known for 40 years. So, I feel like that's the only thing that makes them interesting. The fact that we can't predict what they're going to do next because most of their decisions are just not the opposite of common sense. I wanted to ask you about this specific story. Meghan Markle urged to learn from Carolyn Bessette Kennedy's press struggles. You've covered this JFK documentary from CNN on your show at great length. I'm almost offended by a lot. God, you and I love Tina Brown, but I'm
Hmm.
almost offended by Tina Brown comparing the two within this documentary. Did
Hmm.
you have the same thought when you saw that moment when you were watching? And do you have any reaction to anybody trying to compare Carolyn Bessette Kennedy to Meghan Markle? And also, give me your thoughts on Carolyn before we go there so that I have a better like if you say, yeah, they are similar. Is it because you don't like Carolyn or is it, do you know what I mean?
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think, I wrote about Carolyn a lot in Ask Not, and I spoke to friends of hers who have never spoken before. And what they gave me was a very nuanced, interesting, complicated depiction of a woman who, despite the line that the legacy media toes, and Tina Brown's doing it like a servant in this documentary, saying, oh, Carolyn just didn't know what she was getting into. Carolyn knew exactly what she was getting into. She pursued this guy like she was SEAL Team 6 and he was Bin Laden. Okay. She wanted all of it. And then what happened is she got behind closed doors and she really saw what it was like. The public facing version, Camelot, the fairy tale, the most eligible bachelor in the world. You get behind the scenes, it's grimy, it's grubby, it's seamy. And she married a guy who, unlike her, wasn't very bright, wasn't very engaged with the culture, wasn't very interesting, and had everything handed to him. So what she basically got was a sanded down beta male. That is the only thing Meghan has in common with Carolyn. That and the fixation on Diana. Carolyn thought that she was the second coming of Diana and that she was going to meet a similar end. And even JFK Jr. was like, you're out of your mind. Wow. You're nothing like Diana. And we know that Meghan, thanks to so much of your own reporting, your direct sourcing, also believes that she is the second coming of Meghan Markle. I've heard much the same from people who would know. Sorry, Meghan Markle believes she's the second coming of Diana. But that's it. That's really it.
Yeah. She says, as we've seen with Meghan and Harry, there was quite a lot about Carolyn that was a bit Meghan-ish.
Every move is staged like she's playing herself in a Netflix biopic, but she still wants us to think she's just like us. Kinsey and Maureen both hit on it perfectly. The audacity of pretending surprise in an interview that was clearly pre-approved and tightly scripted. It's the same performance we've seen over and over, self-conscious realness mixed with PR-level control.
Brown compared the two women, who one who married into America's Camelot, the other Britain's royalty, that Carolyn had wanted in for all these reasons. There was glamour and elegance, but that came with so much pressure in terms of the monster of the media that she fell apart, really. In your book, I did get the sense, ask not, that JFK Jr., I think he felt for her a little bit when it came to her, how uncomfortable she was with the media attention. But he almost towards the end was not as sympathetic as I felt like he should have been. Or maybe she wasn't strong enough. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of the two. She would say to him more than once when he couldn't understand why she just couldn't get with the program and be a perfect Kennedy wife. She would say, I didn't get the effing employee handbook.
Yeah.
And even John's friends who knew the deal in being friends with John Kennedy was that he did whatever he wanted. He was as thoughtless and entitled and spoiled as he could be. And you just went along with it because that was the cost of doing business. Carolyn was a very media savvy person when she entered this marriage. She worked for Calvin Klein as his right-hand person. Yeah. She was dressing some of the most famous women in the world. You're going to tell me, and she lived in New York City. So she knew. Now, the other thing that interests me about this, and what is similar here is the sort of protestations, right? Meghan Markle, the same. I didn't know who Harry was.
Oh my gosh.
Royal family. We don't have royals in America. I was so unfamiliar. Okay.
Even though we can go back and look at the TIG where she writes a blog post about Catherine's wedding in the TIG, and she's clearly envious. She's like, she doesn't understand the hype around Catherine's wedding. Then she has her own, and it's her second wedding needs to be televised for all of us to see. Like, that is such. But what I wanted to say really, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, I do believe Carolyn Bessette was like, paparazzi. But Meghan's like, Meghan was calling them as she exited the yoga studio in Toronto. And I would bet cash money that she's called them since she's moved to the United States post-royal life.
I mean, Kinsey, really, how many paparazzi are rolling around the streets of Montecito? I'm going to guess it's a lot like out where I am on the east end of Long Island. The paparazzi don't come out here. Mm-hmm. It's just not the done thing. If you are a Jennifer Lopez getting photographed by paparazzi on Main Street in East Hampton and then yelling at them for it, it's because you called them and told them where you were, at what time, so that you could yell at them and do this big performance. And I think that's when we see Meghan, my favorite Meghan, rolling around town in her $900, $1,200 camel wool Max Mara wool cashmere blend coat, ankle sweep. It sweeps the floor because she's so short. In the dead of spring or summer, that's my favorite Meghan.
Oh, my favorite Meghan is when she's hiking wearing dead Princess Diana's jewelry. Like,
could she just do a Thanksgiving special, a very Marie Antoinette Netflix Thanksgiving special, shoving Diana's Cartier tank and her aquamarine ring into the guts of a chicken and pulling out the innards? Give me some television, lady.
That is hilarious. I don't think we're getting that on the Christmas special, but that makes me if we can't create that with Chat GPT, I'm disappointed in us. Okay.
Same.
I feel like that needs to be done. Did you have any other thoughts on this before I move on to the next one?
Yeah, just that what a drag. What a drag that Tina Brown, who has a silver tongue and a silver bullet in her back pocket, is towing this line and, shilling out these cliches on CNN. It's none of it's the truth. It's a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a bummer. And if you are curious about the Kennedy family, Ask Not is my favorite. I have it on audio and
Thank
a
you.
physical copy, but it's the best source. So don't watch the JFK thing on CNN. Don't do that,
And women of America and the Western world do not date a Kennedy, let alone marry a Kennedy. Just don't do it.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Can I tell you something I'm ashamed of? I think I still would.
By the end of the discussion, it's clear both women are just exasperated. Meghan's story, once brimming with potential, has become a loop of PR blunders, vanity projects, and unintentional comedy. She could have reinvented herself post-royal life as a philanthropist, a style icon, even a cultural bridge between the U.S. and the monarchy. Instead, she's chosen the path of overproduction and self-pity, and it's made her one of the most predictable, unpredictable people in pop culture. The irony? For someone obsessed with controlling her narrative, Meghan has completely lost control of it. And as Maureen and Kinsey joke about Meghan's imagined Thanksgiving special, wearing Diana's jewelry while cooking a chicken on Netflix, you can't help but laugh. Because at this point, parody and reality are almost indistinguishable. Meghan Markle remains a fascinating contradiction, a woman desperate to be seen as authentic while scripting every word, craving royal validation while rejecting royal duty, and chasing sympathy while radiating self-importance. The male sparkle has dimmed, the brand is wobbling, the interviews are cringe, and the victim narrative is wearing thin. But as long as she keeps serving up these moments of unintentional comedy, the world will keep watching,